She'll never say it out loud, not to her friends, not even to herself in the quiet. But deep down, there's a hunger, not for compliments or flowers, but for something that cuts deeper than surface-level attention. She wants to be shaken, moved, pulled out of the ordinary, and made to feel something that leaves a mark, something that makes her remember you. The reality? Most men never get there. They've been conditioned to play safe, to always be polite, to follow the script of what's expected. But predictability kills attraction. You weren't built to blend into the background. You were built to ignite something inside her, to be the man who lingers in her mind long after you're gone. Too many guys are stuck repeating the same tired cycle, texting too much, giving too much, hoping effort will spark desire. But effort alone doesn't create magnetism. What pulls her in isn't how much you pour out. It's what you keep back. It's the quiet fire behind your composure. It's the edge, the aura, the mystery, the silence that says more than any flattery ever could. And today, I'm going to show you how to unlock that. Not by pretending, not by forcing, but by stepping so fully into your own presence that she has no choice but to lean closer. This isn't about manipulation. It's about becoming grounded, unshakable, and tapping into the 4 emotional triggers that create obsession. If you're done being overlooked, if you've given until you're empty and still feel unseen, this is your wake-up call. What I'm about to share isn't just advice. It's the beginning of her craving you in a way she won't even understand. Let's dive in. Trick number 1. She loves to feel intrigued. She won't say it out loud, but the truth is she's drawn to the unknown. Not the man who explains everything, but the one who makes her feel like there's more beneath the surface. The man who pauses before he speaks, who looks at her and chooses silence over explanation, who leaves space in the conversation, not because he's hiding, but because he moves with intention. And in that space, she starts to feel something she can't name, something just out of reach. That gap you leave, it pulls her closer, not out of confusion, but out of instinct. Because what she can't predict, she wants to understand. And what she can't control, she wants to earn. She doesn't crave full access. She craves the process of discovering you. Every moment you choose restraint. Every time you say less than expected, you build tension. And tension isn't the enemy. It's the invitation. You're not being cold. You're being present. You're showing her that knowing you takes time. Now picture a man who walks into a room and says nothing. He doesn't need to fill the air with noise. He doesn't perform. He listens. He stands firm. And his stillness speaks louder than anyone's. Volume. She notices not because he demands it, but because she feels his gravity. That changes the dynamic. He's not chasing. She's drawn in, not because he's mysterious on purpose, but because he carries substance. And that presence can't be faked. It must be earned layer by layer, moment by moment. Think about how many times you gave too much too soon. You thought opening up fast would build trust, that telling her everything would make her feel closer, but it didn't. She smiled politely, then slowly drifted. You felt her energy shift, and you wondered what went wrong. The truth. You gave her the ending before she read the first chapter. There was nothing left to explore, no questions to ask, no reasons to stay curious. Desire doesn't thrive on access. It thrives on tension, mystery, the quiet pull of what hasn't been said. You thought your vulnerability would win her heart, but what she really craved was the slow unfolding. The man who says, "You'll get to know me. You stay long enough because here's the truth." When a woman feels like she's figured you out, she stops leaning in. She stops imagining. And when imagination dies, so does attraction. You don't have to hide, you just have to pace the reveal. Let her earn each part. Make her feel she's unlocking something no one else gets to see. That's what makes you unforgettable. Not what you give, but how slowly you give it. And yes, there will be moments when she presses in. She'll ask questions, try to read you, maybe even try to pull truth out of you like a thread from a wound. And that's your test. Not to hide, but not to hand her the entire map either. When she asks why you're so calm, you simply say, I don't speak about things that matter until someone shows they can hold them. And when she asks what's on your mind, you let the silence settle before you say, there's a lot there, but not all of it is ready for words. You're not avoiding her. You're inviting her to earn access, to discover, not consume. When she wants everything at once, you give her just enough to feel like she's unlocked the next door. Not because you're withholding, but because you value the process more than the performance. Being intriguing isn't about playing games. It's about patience. It's about being the calm before the storm and the storm no one expected. Because there's something magnetic about a man who doesn't overshare, who doesn't need applause, who can hold the weight of his silence like a crown. Think back. Have you ever had a woman who couldn't stop texting you? Who reread your messages? Who asked her friends, do you think he meant more by this? That wasn't luck. That was restraint. That was your mystery doing the work. You didn't say it aloud, and that mystery, it fuels her curiosity. Not because she's playing you, but because human attraction lives in what's not fully known. When a woman feels she's figured everything out, there's nothing left to chase, nothing left to wonder, nothing to pull her back into the room. But when she feels there's always more, she returns. Not for validation, but for discovery. So if you want to be the man she replays in her mind, the one she imagines beside her when she's lying alone, the one who makes her compare every other man to you, don't give her everything. Give her access she has to earn. Let her feel like knowing you is a journey, not a transaction. Your story should feel like a novel she can't put down, not a brochure she reads once and forgets. Every conversation is a chance to reveal just a sliver, to let her peel back one layer and feel that moment of weight. There's more to him than I thought. That's how you build emotional tension, not by faking anything, but by showing her that the man she's looking at was not built in a day and will not be given away in one. So how do you live like this? You move slower. You answer less. Not to play hard to get, but because your life is already full, and you're not handing your attention to anyone who hasn't shown they can hold it. When you're with her, you ask questions that reach past the surface, and only after she's opened a door do you open one of yours. You don't dump your past out on the table. You let her dig, and when she does, you reward her not with your scars, but with your insight. Give her your thoughts like fragments of poetry, your truths like keys, your energy like a rare invitation. That's what creates obsession, not desperation, not performance, presence. The most unforgettable men aren't the loudest. They're the ones who know the value of silence, who move with weight, who speak with stillness, who allow others to earn what most men give away for free. Because the truth is, a woman falls not when she fully understands you, but when she realizes she never fully will. She falls when she senses that knowing you will take time, will take effort, will require her to rise into the version of herself capable of meeting your depth. And because people value what they work for, her emotional bond to you will deepen. With every layer she peels back, with every pause you hold, with every truth you delay just long enough to make it land. So live like a man who doesn't need to broadcast, who doesn't overshare, who makes the world in her. Earn every layer of him, because the man who carries mystery with integrity is the one she doesn't just desire, he's the one she'll never forget. Trick number 2, she loves to feel challenged. She doesn't crave a man who agrees with everything. She craves the one who doesn't fold under pressure, who doesn't chase her approval. When you speak with clarity, calm but certain, you don't just impress her. You move something deeper inside her. A man who can disagree without becoming defensive, commands respect without asking for it. You don't have to raise your voice. You don't need to dominate the conversation. All you need is stillness. Stillness that doesn't seek applause, presence that doesn't perform, and values that don't shift when tested. She feels it not because you're being rude, but because you're being real. You don't reward beauty with instant validation. You let her feel that your attention must be earned, and that's what changes the energy. She leans in not because you tried to win her, but because you didn't flinch when tested. You didn't change your plans to please her. You didn't laugh at jokes that weren't funny. You didn't break your own code just to avoid friction. And that kind of man, that's the one who lingers in her mind. You said no with peace. You held your truth without apology. And in that moment, she saw it. The edge, the boundary, the quiet fire, that rare balance of self-control and silent strength. And something in her woke up, not fear, but respect, curiosity, attraction. Because women aren't drawn to compliance, they're drawn to conviction. The man who says, "This is who I am, take it or leave it," and actually means it. He doesn't chase, he doesn't adapt to fit her moods, he doesn't shrink to avoid her disapproval. He holds, he leads, he listens without changing his direction. And in that stillness, she senses security. Not the fake kind that pleases, but the kind built from purpose. She may test you, she may poke and push and challenge, but when you don't react, when you remain unshaken, she pays attention. She wants to know what you're made of, where that calm comes from, what you stand for. Because when a woman meets a man who refuses to compromise himself, something shifts inside her. And suddenly, you're not just another man. You're the challenge she didn't know she needed. Every small moment where you don't flinch adds weight to how she sees you. Not because you're trying to impress, but because you're anchored. You don't laugh at things that aren't funny. You don't rearrange your life just because she wants attention. You don't rush to reply when she sends a vague, dismissive message. Why? Because your time is valuable, your peace is sacred, and your attention isn't something she can pull from you, it's something she has to earn. That's what pulls her in. You're not hard to get, you're hard to shake. And that kind of man is unforgettable. You're not aggressive, you're consistent, you don't need to demand respect. You live in a way that commands it. Because here's the truth. Women don't fall in love with convenience, they fall in love with conviction. Every time you calmly hold a boundary, you send her a silent message. I'm not here to be chosen. I'm here to choose. And that message, it changes everything. It doesn't push her away. It pulls her deeper because now she's not asking whether you'll accept her. She's asking whether she's worthy of you. She stops testing to see if you'll fold. She starts wondering what it'll take to rise to your level. And that's the energy shift most men never reach because most men are too afraid to say no. They say yes to keep the peace. They laugh to avoid discomfort. They bend their truth just to avoid being alone. And women feel that. They feel when you say yes, but mean maybe. They feel when your boundaries are just for show and they lose interest because they're not falling for you. They're tolerating the version of you that's afraid to be real. Ask yourself, when was the last time you silenced your truth just to keep her smiling? When was the last time you swallowed your standards just to avoid a little tension? Those are the moments where your power leaked, and she felt it because women are intuitive. They know when strength is real, and they know when it's just fear, wearing a polite mask. So, how do you reclaim that power? You draw lines not with volume, but with consistency. You make plans and you keep them. You protect your routines. You don't abandon your discipline just because she calls late. You don't skip the gym, cancel your schedule, or hit pause on your mission just to reply to a craving for attention. That's not cold. That's clear. And clarity is attractive because most men don't have it. So when she sees that her emotional chaos doesn't disturb your internal order, when she realizes she can't pull you out of alignment, she feels something rare. Safety, not the safety of submission, the safety of structure, of presence, of calm. And in her mind, a story starts to write itself. He's not like the others. And that thought becomes a seed, a fixation, a new standard. She starts comparing, not because she's petty, but because she's realizing that most men are reactive. Most men shift with the wind. But you stand. You become the quiet voice she hears when she's with someone else, the one she remembers when other men try to impress her because you didn't have to try. You didn't sell yourself. You didn't chase her affection. You gave her something no one else did, a reason to rise. Now, will she push back? Of course. She'll test your patience. She'll challenge your silence. She'll question your standards, not because she wants to break you, but because she needs to know they're real. And when she sees that they are, when you stay centered in the fire, when you don't trade your identity for her approval, something opens in her. She lowers her guard, not because she's defeated, but because she's finally met a man she can trust with her full heart. And when a woman trusts your emotional strength, she gives more than her words. She gives you her loyalty, her softness, her depth, and you never had to raise your voice to earn it, only your standard. So if you want to be unforgettable, stop explaining, stop trying to convince, stop living to be accepted, start choosing who gets access to you. Because the most attractive men in the world don't chase validation, they carry values, and women chase that energy like oxygen, not because it flatters them, but because it awakens something sacred inside them. And that kind of man, she doesn't just love, she fights to keep. Trick number 3, she loves to feel uncertain. She won't admit it, not to her friends, not even to herself. But the feeling she secretly craves most is uncertainty. Not chaos, not drama, but a quiet suspense that keeps her heart leaning in. She wants to wake up wondering where she stands, not because you're playing games, but because you live a life that doesn't orbit her. That mystery one she can't fully touch. It pulls her deeper than words ever could. When a woman can't predict your next move, when she senses more to you than what you've shown, her emotions begin to root themselves in the unknown. Because that's where attraction grows in tension, in space, in the distance between what she feels and what she's still trying to understand. Certainty is comfortable, but comfort kills dizzier. The moment she feels like she's figured you out, the story ends. She stops reaching, she stops imagining, and eventually she stops feeling. But when you let her wonder, when you pull back without disappearing, you create emotional gravity, the kind that lingers long after you leave the room, the kind that makes her check her phone at midnight just to see if your name appears. This isn't about manipulation, it's about motion. A man of presence doesn't reveal everything, not because he's hiding, but because he respects the weight of each layer. You don't answer every message instantly. You don't explain every move. You speak less, but with more meaning. You give her just enough to be intrigued, but never enough to feel like she has you figured out. And in that gap, she feels something rare: curiosity, engagement, emotional traction. Because the men she talks about with her friends aren't the ones who poured out their life story too soon. They are the ones who made her chase clarity, the ones who didn't offer themselves all at once. Not because they were arrogant, but because they were focused on something deeper than being liked. And this is where most men fail. They mistake vulnerability for oversharing, honesty for dumping, and then wonder why she pulls away after they opened up. But attraction isn't born from being fully seen. It's born from the feeling that there's still more to see. Uncertainty isn't distance, it's intention. It's the space where her curiosity lives and where her desire deepens. Most men confuse being available with being meaningful. They pour everything out too soon. They think telling her every feeling, every scar, every thought will make her feel close. But closeness without mystery feels flat, predictably forget. You don't build a fire by dumping every log on at once. You build it slowly. One spark, one pause, one breath between the flames. So when she leans in and asks, "What are you thinking?" you don't need to hand her the whole blueprint of your soul. You give her a piece, a lamb, not to hide, but to invite. Let her reach. Let her guess. Let her mind do the work of stitching your silence into meaning, because that process of trying to understand you, to decode your rhythm, it awakens something primal in her. Now she's invested. Now she's emotionally participating, not because you chased her, but because you left space for her to come closer. And once she's leaning in, once she's imagining what you might be feeling, you've done something powerful. You've pulled her into your emotional orbit without ever lifting a finger. Because emotions don't attach to fairness, they attach to effort. We value what we reach for, not what's handed to us. So, when you break the pattern of always texting first, when you let a day breathe after a good date before you follow up, you're not being distant. You're being deliberator. You're showing her that your attention isn't a reflex, it's a decision. And that decision, when it comes, lands with weight. It feels like a reward, a signal that she's earned another page in your story. And that's what keeps her coming back, not knowing what page is next, because you're not giving her a conclusion. You're giving her a novel that unfolds slowly. This is what most men miss. They turn themselves into open books, hoping she'll admire the honesty. But she doesn't want a book with every answer written on the first page. She wants a story with turns, with weight, with breath. She wants to discover you. Over time, not because you're cold, but because you're real. Because you're not living to be liked. You're living with purpose. And that purpose creates a frame. A life that moves forward with or without her. Not to push her away, but to invite her into something bigger than approval. That's why you don't rush in. That's why you don't explain every decision. Because not everything you do is for her. Some of it is for your peace. Some of it is for your mission. Some of it is just for you. And when she realizes she's not the center of your world, but a guest in it, someone who has to earn a deeper place, her attraction intensifies. She leans in because she's dealing with a man who won't dissolve into her desires. A man who doesn't need her moods to validate his meaning. That kind of man is rare, and rare is irresistible. Now pause. Look back. How many times did a woman lose interest after you became too predictable? After you became the yes. Man, the available anytime guy. The one who gave affection without invitation. The truth is, you gave her emotional closure too soon, and closure is the end of the story. But suspense, that's what makes her heart beat faster. That's what lives in her imagination. She doesn't want reruns. She wants something that unfolds in real time. And your job is to be that unfolding, to keep growing, to keep becoming, to be a man she can't fully define. Not because you're unclear, but because you're alive. You're evolving, you're moving, you're not waiting for her reaction to take shape. You're shaping your own path. So, how do you live this practically? You detach not from care, but from need. You care about her, but you don't need her to fill your identity. You enjoy her presence, but you don't panic in her absence. And when she notices that you didn't check in for a day, that you didn't respond right away, that wondering she feels, it's not stress, it's anticipation. And anticipation is where intimacy begins. It's the breath before the kiss, the pause before the music drops, the space where emotion builds. You don't have to impress her. You just have to leave room for her to feel something she can't control. That's the art. Not playing games, but moving with intention, living with layers, becoming the man she wants to explore, not the one she already knows. And when you let her wonder, you give her the one thing most men are too afraid to offer, a reason to stay curious. Trick number 4, the feeling of earned reward. You ever wonder why giving her everything doesn't work? You show up, you stay consistent. You text her, good morning, good night. You compliment her every chance you get. And somehow, instead of pulling her closer, she pulls away. Here's why people don't value what's free. Not in business, not in friendships, not in love, and especially not in relationships where a man gives himself away without requiring anything. In return, when a woman doesn't have to work for your time, your approval, or your commitment, it feels less like love and more like charity. She might appreciate it in the beginning. She might even enjoy it. But deep down, she doesn't feel like she's part of something meaningful. Because meaning is born from effort, from challenge, from the feeling that she's earned your presence, not just stumbled into it. You become background noise, predictably safe and eventually forgettable. But flip the script. Live with purpose. Let your energy orbit something bigger than her. Make your time scarce, your standards clear, and your attention selective. Suddenly, she's not coasting, she's chasing. Not because you're withholding, but because you're requiring. And that requirement creates value. Think about it. Anything you've worked hard for in your life, you protect it. You invest in it. You rise for it. It's the same with her. When you stop handing over your validation for free, she starts wondering, what do I have to do to keep his attention? And that is where emotional attraction starts to deepen, because now she sees